What made you instantly realize your friend was not a real friend? My husband almost divorced me because his best friend convinced him I didn't love him anymore. Before everything happened, I actually matched my husband's freak. We used to have a dice that we'd roll to see what type of mischievous activities we'd perform. We weren't just insane in bed, we were also the type of couple that couldn't keep our hands off each other. All of our friends would even call us mom and dad, except for one. His best friend was a little bit territorial. He was what some people would call an instigator. Anytime my husband and I fought, his best friend would whisper into my husband's ear and somehow make the entire situation 10 times worse. I'm still convinced that he's in love with my man, and sometimes I'd make gay fanfiction about them for giggles. Lately though, his best friend was on the verge of ruining my relationship. I recently started getting trained by my boss to become his assistant manager, and that meant my job was taking everything out of me. The first night of training, my husband was prepared to comfort me after practice with a massage that might lead to both our parts getting massaged, but I couldn't even focus long enough to get moist. I used to be exhausted from my husband's tricks, but now I was starting to feel exhausted while walking 2 steps. I felt insanely guilty though, so I tried anyway to get active. I tried to play hot intimacy videos to get myself into the mood. I tried to rub everything together to see if it needed some sort of activation button, and I even tried to skip practice just to get wild, but none of it worked. I felt so guilty that I was leaving him high and dry, so I made it my mission to finish him off with my mouth or hand every time. This worked until one day I could physically feel his meat deflate and it felt like I was milking a sick cow. He just ended up moving my hand away gently and asked me with tears in his eyes why I wasn't attracted to him anymore. I was too stunned to speak. I told him that what was going on with me wasn't his fault at all. I asked him why would he even think that. He just told me that his best friend said that me pulling away might be because I thought he was ugly. I told him I thought he was the most attractive man in the world, but I didn't even know how to explain my exhaustion to him. He just kissed me on the forehead, said goodnight, and left to sleep on our couch. This ordeal tore us apart for weeks. We would purposely spend less time at home to sort of avoid each other. We stopped sending each other TikToks after practices, and I started putting the food I made him in containers because we didn't even eat dinner together anymore. I would see him going out with his best friend more often, and he'd come back home with red-rimmed eyes and his best friend would glare at me through the window. It felt like what was going on with us was up in the air and it felt like my fault. Part of me was scared that I simply wasn't attracted to him anymore and that I subconsciously didn't like the life we built together. But some part of me blamed his best friend, so I started texting him and asking what was up. He immediately said that he was sick of me hurting his best friend, so he was going to do anything possible for my husband to see the truth. I didn't even know what to think about that. The only thing that calmed me down after that was going to the gym. I started going to the gym even more to clear my mind and burn off some steam for nearly 2 hours. After I was done, I'd head to the showers to wash off. While I was washing my lady parts one day, I suddenly felt a jolt of pleasure, the same jolt I got when I first learned how to touch myself. Then I just completely disregarded that I was in a public use shower and started to become a professional DJ in the Club J. I just desperately wanted to get that feeling back. Suddenly, I heard my shower curtain open, and I turned to see another lady in a towel's about to pop a muscle. She must have seen a crazy hunched over muscle lady who looked like she just discovered herself for the first time. She quickly closed the curtain and said sorry over and over. I turned off the shower and came out to apologize to her for having to see that, but she actually took it quite well. In the moment, I ended up admitting that I was exploring because of my husband, and all the stress. She told me that stress is a huge factor in intimacy and if it's not tackled, it will ruin your intimate lives since stress and not being able to relax in bed almost ruined it for her. But then she told me about this arousal and intimacy oil, and how after using them she could finally relax and let go of all the stress right before her boyfriend and her went at it. I was stunned, so I asked her how that was possible. Apparently the arousal oil had a blend of botanicals that was great at relaxing the muscles around my hua, while the intimacy oil was more of an oiler that would help me enjoy my husband. After we talked some more about the oils, we exchanged numbers, and as I'm typing this I just hope my husband doesn't ask how we became friends. When I got home I ordered the Foria honeymoon set which had both of the oils, and after a couple of days it got to my place. That day, I opted for a longer morning workout and didn't work out that night because I was certain that we were gonna have the best night of our lives. When I found my husband on the couch, I turned off the TV. I grabbed his hand and took him to the bedroom. I started kissing him and took off his shirt. He asked me if I was sure and if I wanted to stop and talk first. I told him F now, talk later. His eyes lit up because he could tell I had something up my sleeve. When we moved to our bed, I gave him the arousal oil to rub on me. He didn't even ask. He just started working his magic. I could physically feel my girl start to almost blossom and pulse from the oil, and as if I had been waiting my entire life for this moment, it finally worked. My body felt so relaxed and my hips kept lifting for my man, so much that he had to press me down. When he made the move to put his fingers in me, my girl was like a vortex the way it sucked him in and made him stay. My brain felt fuzzy and I was sweating everywhere. It was like my coochie was making me ascend from the arousal oil. My legs started shaking and I was tweaking like I was from Baltimore. The room was spinning and all I could hear was my heartbeat. There wasn't a thought in my head. After 7 minutes of heaven, I touched earth and looked at my husband like it was the first time I've seen him. I'm telling you, the arousal oil plus the intimacy oil combo feeling must have lasted 30 minutes even after I calmed down. I tried to stop smiling but it was like my lips were being pulled up by strings. I apologized to my husband for finishing so early. He said not to worry about it, put the Foria oils down, and said, "We are so back." He didn't try to call his best friend after this time.